Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, the show that gives you a virtual seat at the bar for the real conversations that happen between entrepreneurs. I'm interviewing all kinds of business owners, from those just a few years into freelancing to CEOs helming 9-figure companies. If you've ever worried that everyone else just seems to get it and you're missing something or messing things up, this show is for you. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is somebody I'm super excited to have, Laura Belgray. Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass.
Well, thank you so much, Angie. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we've got so much to talk about. But first, tell me about your business and what you do.
Okay, so my business is called Talking Shrimp, and I am known for copywriting. I came from the TV world where I wrote promos for shows and segued into this weird online world I like to call the space, where I've had private clients for years in copywriting. And so I am known for copywriting, but I would say my overall umbrella mission is helping entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, anybody ending in preneur, mompreneurs, puppypreneurs, massagepreneurs, all of those people make their business, we'll find the words and the chutzpah to make their business a 100% expression of their personality. And because that is how you are essentially getting paid to be you, which to me is the holy grail of work and something I have wanted all my life and aspire to all my life.
Yes.
And I will continue that. I have a book coming out, my first book, which is called Tough Titties.
Yes.
And it is, I can proudly say, is an absolute expression of my personality. And it is, especially in the sense that it is not the book I am supposed to write. I don't do well with supposed to's. And in our world, right, we're supposed to write a copywriting book, a marketing book, a self-development book, any kind of how-to. And this book is way more of a how not to. It's an essay collection or memoir and essays of coming of age, let's say a misfit dork coming of age in 80s, 90s New York City, and late blooming into an unusual life and career by way of social mishaps, dating humiliations, work and adulting fails, or as my husband likes to call it, loser sex in the city.
Oh my gosh. I'm laughing because, guys, I'm privileged to have an early release copy to be able to review, and I will be sharing my thoughts on this for sure. But it is absolutely true. Like everything that she just said, loser sex in the city, but hilarious and lovable and like, oh my gosh, so easy to identify with. So I love all of that. And especially talking about like chutzpah and getting paid to be you, because I get so frustrated with folks who kind of lapse back, and myself included, lapse back into that tendency to speak corporate because that's what's quote unquote professional. It drives me nuts.
Me too. It's my pet peeve. And it's always been something that I've been determined to help wipe out in people because so many, whether you come from a corporate background or it's just ingrained in you from having a teacher cross out all your stuff in 8th grade or 12th grade or college or going for your PhD. The academic world is the worst about this. We have had it drilled out of us that instinct to be ourselves, to be natural, to write like we talk, to be conversational. And so people tend to mistake corporate for professional, buttoned up for professional. And to me, conversational is the new professional. It sounds stodgy and stiff to be corporate and buttoned up now. Yes.
I hid so much of myself for so many years in the name of, I think this is the professional way to present myself. And I think I told this story recently about like, I was at my first copywriter conference in several years. I was a corporate copywriter at the time. And I'm in my blazer, my facial piercings taken out, my tattoos covered up. And I had one drink too many, got a little tipsy and started, I don't know why, but I started telling stories about getting into mosh pit fights in my 20s and literally watched people lean in and go, who is this? I want to know more about this, which of course I spent like the next few weeks agonizing over like, oh my God, did I put my foot in it? Is that really embarrassing to share? But that started the journey toward embracing being myself and recognizing I can be a rock and roller and I can be in business and I can say permission to kick ass and drop a couple F-bombs and people will still dig it because it's just being authentic to me. Did you ever have any struggles with that?
No, I mean, I struggled with the world that was against that. I lasted in a real corporate job, a true 9 to 5 for all of 6 months. That was it, one job. And it was writing copy for a magazine. I was 24 and, like way younger than anyone she ever considered hiring, but she hired me. And I thought everything I wrote there should be cheeky and funny and sassy and sound like a person. And she would argue that it needed to be more elegant. And she would say more up here. And I'm waving my hand above my head, which is also the universal sign for over my head. But she would always say that it needs to be more up here. And so we didn't see eye to eye on that. And they were off brand for me and I was off brand for them. But I've been determined ever since to only do work where I can sound like me or like a person if I was writing for somebody else.
Nice. And I imagine that the road to doing that wasn't like all sunshine and roses and that everybody immediately embraced like, yes, Laura Belgray. Mm-hmm. Or am I wrong? Correct me. For
the most part, I won't say it was all sunshine and roses. I struggled to find my thing and find jobs where I could really do that. And however, my voice was welcomed mostly wherever went, depending, I would say from every job after that, because I would only take jobs that allowed me to do that and where it was welcome. And so when I worked in TV, I was not writing in my own voice. I was writing in the voice of a network, which after a certain number of years, I became a little squirrely and tired and wanted to write in my own voice. But for a long time, it was a dream job. And so even though I was writing in the voice of the network and not myself, I still put my personality into the spots to the extent that when I walked into a studio to oversee supervise the recording, the voiceover, the sound engineer might say, "Oh my gosh, I knew this was a Laura Belgray spot." And that made me happy. That's when that made me feel really good about my work. When I was known for my voice, when I was able to put enough put enough of it into my work that people recognized it as mine. So that to me was pretty much nirvana for a long time. And then I got complacent and needed something. I had more to say. And that's when I kind of segued into the online world where I could blog and express myself through my own writing that was in my voice and reflected my thoughts and my stories and all that.
Well, that's fascinating to me. I'm curious about, were there ever moments that you doubted that or that it was hard for you to turn down something in favor of sticking to this? I want to be able to have fun with this, to speak in my voice. Like, were you ever basically tempted to go back on it because of a paycheck?
Not really.
Okay.
Mostly because, I'll tell you when I got tired and felt a little drained was doing client work after a while. Like I really liked my clients and I loved being able to help them express themselves, but the work was never as satisfying as writing my own stuff, my own, using my voice, my copy for me, for my business. And sometimes I would put write a really good line or write something really great for somebody else and feel like, no, I want credit for that. I don't want them. I don't want it coming out of their mouths or on their sales page. I want it coming from me. So that's really where I started to struggle, was after years of doing client work. And that was my bread and butter. And I pivoted in later years in around 2019 I retired my services, my one-on-one services, and started just creating and selling courses of my own. And I had already partnered with Marie Forleo on a course called The Copy Cure, which we've had together since 2015. And so that's been great. So my whole business changed and it was solely like, I'm going to teach, I'm going to help people, I'm going to mentor them. And all my copy is expressing me. It's in my voice and selling my stuff. And that's been essential for me. And so has writing my book, an opportunity to tell my stories and put them out there into the world.
That's why I was so excited when you were like, yes, I will come on the show, because I really wanted to share with the listeners, particularly, that there's a way out there to build the business that you want, no matter what it is that you want to do. If you really want to be yourself, you can create a business around being yourself. I know that we've talked privately before about having a no homework business, which of course I freaking love. So, there's never an opportunity where you're going to figure out the perfect plan in advance. You kind of have to figure all of this out by jumping in and going, I love this, that not so much. How am I going to solve for this problem knowing I hate that thing? And I think that you've done that perfectly throughout your career. Like, it's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, you do have to try things, even if your instincts say, I don't know if I'm going to like this. This may not be for me. People love to say, this doesn't feel aligned. And I'm like, okay, if you really know that, it's not for you, you're going to hate it and it's not worth the money and the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and go ahead and turn it down. But if you don't really yet know, if you haven't found the work that channels you, that feels like you, that you could do all day, even if you weren't getting paid, then you've got to try things, even if they might not be right for you. And you have a feeling they might not be, quote, aligned. You have to throw spaghetti at the wall, and you got to try things. And that's how you find your voice and how you find what you love to do. And whenever someone's like, well, I don't have a niche. I can't start until I have my niche. How do you find it? I'm like, you find it by writing all different things. If we're talking about copywriting, you find it by writing for all different kinds of clients, all different types of copy. And at some point you will hit on something where you're like, if I could do this all day, if all my work were this, I would be very happy. And then that's when you found your niche.
I love that, because I think we don't talk enough about experimentation. It's like, you got to have the plan, you got to have the niche, you got to know going in who you're going after, and that's going to make everything so much easier. But if you're starting this from scratch and you don't know what you don't know about business, how are you supposed to know what you don't know? You just got to go out there and find out. And I know that, like, I've done that before when I was trying to find what I should specialize in as a copywriter, and tried all kinds. Like, people offered me money, I would do it. I edited business plans. I wrote a live production script for the Miss Black USA pageant. Anything people would hand me money for to do with writing, I tried. That's how I discovered writing for medical and dental equipment wholesalers. Totally not my thing. I'm going to fall asleep on my keyboard and drool into my machine and ruin it. But I tried it, and I got paid to learn something invaluable. And then I crossed that little industry off my list and said, nope, not for me. Not for me.
Exactly. And sometimes, I don't know that writing for the dental industry would allow you this opportunity, but sometimes you're able to do fun, creative things within really uncreative frameworks and expectations. Like, that it might turn out that they're delighted that you broke from tradition and expectations and made it fun or funny, put in a little personality here and there. Like in my in that first job where I only lasted 6 months, I was late all the time. I could not make it in, it was a 10 to 6 job. And then in the summer, 9 to 5 for summer hours. And I could not for the life of me get there on time. And my boss, who already hated me, decided to penalize me by taking away my summer hours. Summer hours were when you left early on Fridays, my summer Fridays. And she would make me stay late and write the department newsletter. And so, the items would be like, Mark and Kendra got engaged at the company retreat. And, all kinds of things about one sheets and initiatives. And I made these as subversive and dark and funny as I could. I would, insert humor, one-liners, a little innuendo, and my boss didn't really catch it. People loved it. They would come up to me and say, I'm finally actually reading the company newsletter. I love these. And I enjoyed, had it not been a punishment, I would have really enjoyed it. But I liked being handed an assignment that was dry and boring and making it interesting and creative. But sometimes having those constraints, like having it be a truly explicitly uncreative endeavor, allows you to be extra creative, because the expectations are so low.
I loved that when I was in corporate copywriting too, because I used to, at the beginning of my creative journey, used to think that the sky needs to be the limit. The schedule needs to be open. all the possibilities. And then I quickly realized how overwhelming that is. And that, thinking outside the box requires there to be a box. The box is good. Here it is.
Yes.
Now we can think outside.
Right. You can't think outside the box without a box.
Mm-hmm. We need the box. We need the constraints. Creativity loves constraints because you innovate your approach to the problem solving is just phenomenal in that box.
Exactly.
So, and I love this, the advice basically to follow your instincts and a little bit of rebellion is okay, because I agree with what you said earlier, that kind of gets, beaten is not the right word, but like stamped out and told that that's inappropriate. But finding your own voice and your own approach in this way just helps you get that much closer to who you need to be. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. I could say inappropriate is my middle name. And my most open chakra, it's my identity. I mean, I'm all about the inappropriate. So,
well, and like heaven forbid we learn how to have a little bit of fun with business. Like I'm so glad that the old paradigm of everybody has to show up with a suit and their tighty-whities wedged firmly up their crack, and this is the way we must do business. Like, no, loosen the tie, learn to lean in a little bit and have some fun with it, because I think work really can be the adult version of play. Agreed. If we lean into it. Yeah. Freaking love that. And I also love this idea of just like finding the next step and taking it and embracing it and learning what you can. Because I wrote down that, frustrated with your clients, even though you had built a business where you loved being there, you loved the people that you work with, and you're getting paid to be you all day, every day. There are still little things that aren't great about this. Like, I'm giving my best work to these people and I want it for me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I love this idea, and I want everybody to take that. Like, you can follow the steps and try it out and see what happens and pivot and adjust from there as you learn more about it.
Right. And nothing is set in stone also. Whether you're in a corporate career or have your own business, nothing is set in stone. You can always pivot. You can always change, especially if it's your own business. You get to decide what you want to do. And when you're tired of doing one thing, then you can do something else. So don't be afraid of like, oh gosh, if I put this on my website, it's forever. It's not. Yeah. It's truly, like, think about the expression set in stone. Website is not that. It is something you can change in 5 seconds. So, and you can change your title and nobody's going to say, like, no one's going to point at you and laugh and be like, ha, you changed your mind. You're a flake. I saw, yesterday your tagline was this and today it's that. And you're doing something totally different. No one's going to laugh at you for it or call you a flake.
Yeah. And if they do, they need to get a life for real.
That's true too.
You're paying way too much attention to other people's lives. Maybe look at your own, friends.
Well, another thing that I can say about that, about getting tired of client work, it wasn't just that I was writing in other people's voice and helping other people and not using my own as much. It was also just seeing appointments on my calendar. My clients were great. And once I was with them in real time, working in our Google Doc, I was happy. I really enjoyed the work. But waking up and seeing appointments on the calendar is not a happy thing for me, especially when the people are paying me. And so their expectations, and it's like, okay, these are, 3 or 4 people lined up today that I have to go in there and help and hope that I can make a difference, make an impact on their copy, give them what they want. And so there's a lot of like tension around that for me. And I like to wake up and see nothing on the calendar. That's my bliss. And so that's one reason I retired from client work. I initially was like, you know what? I'm going to take Mondays and Fridays off of the off of the appointment calendar and Acuity. They are off limits. They can't get booked. And I started loving my Mondays and Fridays so much. Like, they were just for me to sit there and write emails or whatever. And I was like, wonder what would happen if I tried that with Tuesdays and Thursdays too. So eventually my only appointments were on Wednesdays, my only client appointments. And I would find myself going like, oh no, it's Wednesday. And that was a good sign to me that like, maybe it's time to pivot and not do client work if it just feels so burdensome. even though I like it when I'm with it. I don't want to feel that feeling even just once a week. So that's when I eliminated it.
I know how that goes. And it's such an interesting dichotomy too, of like, I love these people. I feel fortunate to be blessed to work with them. I'm excited about their stuff they're doing. And also I can be frustrated that I have to get on a call because I don't want to.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
There's a little part of me that's like, no matter how much I love you and how much I want to talk, I just don't want to talk today. And that's okay.
Yeah. And I don't want to be looking at the time. I mean, right now, as I'm promoting Tough Titties, I don't have a choice. Like I want it badly enough. I want this book to succeed badly enough that I'm willing to fill my calendar with podcast appointments. And it's a different thing. I really love having, like, just sitting down and having a conversation with somebody, especially if it's someone like you who's like, hey, this is going to be like we're two people in a bar, just chatting, and we can keep it real and let's see where the conversation goes. Then I don't have that same tension, apprehension. Although unfortunately, like, podcasts used to be all audio and it used to be such a treat. Like, oh gosh, I can do this with my hair a mess and in pajamas. And now it's, as we are on Zoom right now, and I like seeing your face. I like seeing your reactions while I'm talking. And I'm sure you do too. But like now I have to at least brush my hair. Now I have to like put on a little blush. I have to make sure my background looks okay. And it's an extra layer.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I usually only include, and I have like this whole sequence that I put all my guests through to reassure them on this front. But it's like, I don't want to get made up or do anything for this podcast either. So the video that we've got, which I always joke about, like, haha, they don't get to see it. It's just for me and you. But this is just so that you and I can see each other and have fun. Yes. And then I get to throw in little things like, I just did my happy dance when she said she loves talking to me. And they don't get to see it.
Which is perfect. However, I think you're now in the minority in terms of podcasts. Most of them are like, we do it on Zoom. We do it on video for promotional purposes, or the whole thing will be on YouTube, or they'll tell me it's just for like one or two shots. And then at the end, they'll be like, you can listen to this wherever you listen to your podcast or watch it on YouTube. I'm like, wait, what? I would have worn my cute sweater. Yeah.
I basically wanted to set up a talk show where I could just talk and you don't have to watch me and I don't have to get made up because I don't like it.
No,
that's my version of, oh no, it's Wednesday. Like, I don't want to get dressed up for this. I just want to show up and talk to people. Like, like to circle back to something that you mentioned earlier, taking Mondays and Fridays off. That's something that I did probably about a year ago. No calls on Mondays and Fridays, period, ever. No matter how urgently somebody needs me, it's like, all right, well, we're going to have to find a time next week. But that was life-changing.
Yes.
It took a lot of discomfort to basically close those windows and say, nope, this is me time. Did you ever experience any discomfort with making that unavailable, or was that more of a relief?
No. Oh, it's such a relief. I love it. It makes the weekends better. It makes the whole week better. But especially Sundays, I don't have to look at the calendar and see, like, what do I have tomorrow? What do I have to be on time for tomorrow? And I tend to be a late sleeper.
Same.
Sometimes I go through phases of waking at 7, which is always too early because I'm never in bed by 11. I need my 8. But I refuse to wake up with an alarm. Refuse. And the only time I'll do it is for a flight. And
makes sense.
Yeah. So I really like that being part of my lifestyle, that I don't have to think about what is on my calendar. I don't have to think about what am I going to be on time for. And for that reason, even now that where I'm doing like podcasts at least 3 days a week, podcast interviews, I don't do anything before noon, and I try not to do anything before 1.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, same on that. Like, we made a special exception for this one because I just wanted you on the show that badly, and I won. Yay!
Thank you. Oh, that's right. It's your morning time. Really.
I'm in the East Coast now, so it's noon.
Oh,
so it still fits in with my my rule of not before noon wherever possible. Because it's funny, I've had people reach out and be like, the only time I have open on a Wednesday, my recording day, is like 9 a.m. Could you do 9 a.m.? And I just respond with, you don't want to see me in the morning. You really don't. Like, happy, easygoing Angie is a completely different person from morning Angie. You don't want to talk to me before I've had my coffee. Trust me, this is going to be a better experience if we can find an afternoon somewhere. Just don't do that to yourself. Don't invite morning Angie to this conversation. She's not allowed.
No, nobody wins with morning Laura either.
I love that because it feels like, again, circling back to that, what gets stamped out of us, this knowing how you work best and how you do things. Like, we're entering a whole new era, especially with international digital connectedness, being able to travel to where knowing yourself like this, like I'm not a morning person, means that you can set up your business in a way that allows you to tap into your strengths and not have to compromise on like, well, but I don't want to do a 9 a.m. meeting. So don't.
Yeah.
Don't.
Right. Right. And you don't have to explain. I mean, most of the time, unless you're really like you're trying to get on the schedule of somebody who's really important and has upper hand. Otherwise, you don't have to explain. You don't have to say like, oh, I can't do before then because, it's morning. I don't do morning stuff. Don't even bother. Just say I am available after 1 p.m. On this day, after 2 on this day. Just tell them when you're available. Don't say, you don't have to talk about when you're not.
Well, I love that too, because when we talk about setting rules for our business and what helps us work, that rigidity always like sneaks its way in. And it's like, I only record on Wednesdays. Have I never recorded any day other than Wednesdays? I've made exceptions for strategic reasons. Have I never recorded in the mornings? Also not true. I have recorded in the mornings, but setting that rule for myself to where 80-90% of the time, I know on Wednesday I can wake up, I can prepare for the podcast recordings of the day, I can check all of my equipment, all of that stuff, make sure that we're ready to go. That allows me that space to make strategic exceptions and be like, yes, okay, I've got somebody in Australia that I really want to talk to. That means that I'm going to be recording late tonight. I've got somebody in England that I want to talk to. That means I'm going to be recording in the morning today to accommodate their schedule. So like, yeah, you get to make exceptions to your own rules because they're your own rules.
Yes. And sometimes when you're dreading something, when it's a pain in the ass, and you're wondering if it's aligned, sometimes you have to just, shut the fuck up about it and, just go get through it. And on the other side, it's often worth it.
Yes. The pain is part of the growth experience and it sucks, but it's usually leading you to a better place.
Right. And I certainly don't go out of my way to leave my comfort zone. And everyone says like, oh, well, the magic happens outside your comfort zone. And I disagree for myself anyway. Like so much of the magic happens inside my comfort zone. I love my comfort zone. But yeah, sometimes you have to leave it. I like to think of it more as widening my comfort zone. If I'm doing something that's scary, that doesn't feel like me because I'm nervous about it. It's broadening my comfort zone, bringing something into my comfort zone instead of thinking of it as going outside my comfort zone. I never do that. I never do that deliberately. Like, what scares me today? I'm going to do it. I'm not that person.
And anybody that proclaims to be that person, I have suspicions.
Yes, me too. Like, oh, I'm going to go jump off that cliff because it scares me. You know what? Well, via con Dios, go yes. For it. Go ahead and live your life. It's just that's never going to be me.
Yeah. We're all rooting for you, friend. Go do that thing. It scares you.
Yes.
Great.
You go.
And it's funny. I want to circle back to, I think that's an incredible line of thinking, an incredible approach to this too, that it's expanding my comfort zone. It's not necessarily stepping out of it. I don't have to challenge myself to do the scary thing in order to find success. I just need to expand my comfort zone a little bit. And you actually mentioned the word nervous, which I thought is fascinating because I know you are a personality that I think most people from outside would assume supreme confidence, knows exactly who she is, always has the answers. God. I've gotten that in the past too. Like Angie has always known she never gets nervous. She shows up calm, cool, and collected. And I'm like, man, if this thought process was a bubble above my head or like a loudspeaker and you could hear the thoughts that are going on in my head, you would not think Angie is cool and calm and collected, but.
Oh, I'm nervous all the time. Anytime I have to perform in any way. I mean, even like a group training, I have you said to be real, I get diarrhea before just about every single group training, like anything that's on
Nobody has
Zoom.
ever said that on the show, and that may. I'm very pleased you feel comfortable to be that real. Like, hell yes, hell yes.
I really do. Like anytime I have a Zoom of like possibly 20 or more people, I gotta run to the bathroom like 5 times before it starts, and then hope I won't have to after it starts. And speaking on stage is so much apprehension, and I hate the time leading up to it. I hate the commitment to it. I always wish it would be canceled. And I can feel myself pitting out while I'm on stage. I really enjoy it once I'm up there, if I'm well prepared and the audience is with me, but it's not my favorite thing. And if somebody said, speaking is over, like no more speaking gigs. I mean, I was pretty happy during the pandemic because there weren't. Someone was like, speaking, new federal law, speaking on stages is unlawful and you will be fined or imprisoned. I'd be like, right on, good law. I can work with that.
Oh man, that's great. I love that you shared that. And I want to point it out for everybody that's listening that like what is happening between someone else's ears is never really something that you have the privilege to witness firsthand, unless you're hearing people talk like this, right? And so I know from outside my own head what impressions people have of me because they tell me, right? And I'm sure that this has happened to you too. You step off stage and they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. Oh, you were nervous? I never knew you were nervous. You just looked like you had it together. You and I have a mutual friend, Kevin Rogers. And the first event that he put on, he had a concert and he knew I was a musician and that I wanted to sing. For some reason, my brain was just short circuit. I've sung in front of strangers, on trains, in weird venues. I've done karaoke. I'm a performer, right? I don't have a problem making music. But when you add in that little extra ingredient of it's in front of my colleagues, for some reason, that just tripped all of the alarms and sent the system into meltdown mode. So we had the venue a couple hours before we started letting people in, and we had to do the sound check and warm people up. And I was one of the people that got the least amount of time to prepare. And that was precisely because he knew I'm a musician and I'm comfortable with winging it. He gave the people that were less comfortable with performing a lot of time on stage to practice. So by the time people came in, I was about halfway through my second bottle of wine, myself. And I was just repeating lyrics to myself in a table in the corner. And I kind of vaguely remember people coming and sitting down with me and trying to start conversations. And I'm like drunkenly in my head reciting lyrics and tuning them out. And they would like pick up their drink and walk away.
Well, they read the room eventually, I guess.
They read it, yeah. Well, and I got on stage and left it all on stage, so to speak, and had a blast. But I was about to throw up walking up there. I was about to throw up walking off the stage. I was so overwhelmed by people afterwards. But I still hear from people 5 years later, as we're recording this, going, "Man, I saw you on that stage and you were just rocking out." I'm like, that is literally a physical embodiment of my nerves. That was like literally me spazzing out and having to process energy because I was so nervous. But I'm glad that looked like supreme confidence and rocking the hell out to you. Great.
Yes. Well, they say that fear and excitement are the same physical feeling. So I have at times made a conscious effort to channel or transform the fear, the nervousness into excitement. And it does kind of work. I'm like, okay, I can experience this as like a wee. Like, oh, I'm so excited, which is not something I would normally feel on stage in front of a bunch of people. I'm trying to think when I would feel that way. And it's usually like sitting down to dinner to a plate of pasta. Oh, yeah. Like not something where I have to perform.
The anticipation, the enjoyments of a good dish of food. Oh, gosh. That's another thing you and I have in common. It's like whenever I'm traveling, I try and get in touch with my foodie friends that I know. Please give me the hookup where I can have an incredible meal and just sit here and take pictures of my food. That's all I want to share with people. I don't want to promote all of my business stuff and ideas. Look at this food. Isn't this amazing?
Well, you can reel them in with the food porn and then switch to,
That's my kind of business promotion.
Right. The caption can be all about the thing you're selling.
Well, and that actually circles back nicely to what we were talking about actually before we started recording. I mentioned that I was getting ready to do a live event, and that was my reaction to, again, like a frustration with the way things are done and a rebellion against it. I've been to so many business events they delivered incredible value, incredible speakers and connections, and I learned so much. And also they piled so much information at me. It felt like, a fire hose hitting me directly in the face. I was so overwhelmed to the point of shutdown. And so when it came to setting up my own event, that tied in nicely with a secret goal I've had ever since I started business, which was, how can I make Uncle Sam pay for very fancy vacations in very exotic places? I want to write off exotic vacations. All of that coalesced in the best possible way when I became a digital nomad. And I figured out that people like meeting me where I'm at, experiencing the local place, finding the local food, playing, and then having some focused time for work. So we created this event called Eat, Play, Launch. And basically, we figured out how to write off Disney tickets as a business expense.
Genius. As a writer, isn't all travel? I mean, I consider every meal a business expense.
Yeah.
I'm like, either I'm meeting someone and networking or hosting a client, or I am feeding my employee, who is me.
Yeah. I love it.
Business
I think
dinner.
A talented accountant can make that work for sure. See, creativity in every industry too. Like, I hate it when people talk about creatives as if they're a separate breed entirely from science, from technical industries, from physical labor industries. I'm like, no, there's creativity in every industry, in everything that you do. It's just connecting two seemingly unrelated things and finding a way to make it work together. That's all creativity is.
That's right. So write off everything is the lesson here.
Yes. Write off Disney, write off trips to Fiji, write off your food. I am not a tax professional. Don't actually listen to me on that.
No, nor am I. And I do hope the IRS is not listening to me right now.
Yeah. Well, it's a legit business expense. We're actually paying for our conference attendees to go with us to Disney. And we got to spend the morning excitingly planning all of the agenda and stuff like that. Basically, that's a long, ranty Disney nerd way of saying, if you think of this would be fun to incorporate in business, or I wonder if I could make this work in my business. The answer is yes, you can find a way to make that work.
Yes, you can. Right. Disney rides. What's your favorite ride? Is it a ride thing?
That's so I am a thrill ride person for sure. I would say, because there's 4 parks here at Disney World in Florida. My 2 favorites are probably Space Mountain for like the sensory deprivation aspect of it, and the Avatar Flight of Passage for the sensory immersion aspect of it, because I think that that's really cool. Have you ever been on either of those?
I have been on Space Mountain. We went when I was 12, I think it was. No, look, 12 or 14ish. My family went there, and my sister and I went like early in the morning, and as soon as the ride opened, and got to go again and again and again. And it was the best with no line, because we'd gone the day before and waited in line forever. And after waiting that long in line, we didn't think much of the ride. And I remember hearing a French girl who was in line behind us getting off the ride and saying to her friend, "C'est tout? That's it?" But it was, part of that is about expectations and standing in line for something. Then when you can go again and again, it's an amazing ride.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No line.
They would probably hate me saying this, but what I will say is be nice to the cast members. For anybody that thinks it's cool to like throw a bitch fit to get what you want and pressure people into doing what you want, the opposite is actually true. Be nice, be incredibly gracious, because there was once where I was at Disney on a New Year's Eve, which is a mistake. Don't do that. Learn from my mistake. Think wall-to-wall traffic, but people and no vehicles involved. You can't get anywhere on major holidays at Disney World. But we saw people, and they're all dressed in the costumes of the rides that they serve. We saw people going to the Haunted Mansion, and we just stopped them and said, "Thank you for working today. I know it's got to be a pain in the ass to work on a holiday, and you're here dealing with all these grumpy people in this hot-ass place. And just thank you for being here and making the day magical. We appreciate you." And she teared up and grabbed my hand and said, come with me. And they walked us through to the secret entrance to the Haunted Mansion, to the front of the line, and let us go.
Wow.
So I'm not saying that if you do that, you will get to the front of the line every time, but it does not hurt to be over the top kind to people in service industries. Just saying. Side rant.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. You can never do it. You never show appreciation for someone with expectations of it being returned. That's not the idea there, but that was very nice, especially to people who are wearing like non-breathable fabrics.
Yes. In the hot Florida sun.
Florida.
Oh my gosh. Wow. We have gone all over the map on this conversation. It's fascinating, but I'm going to wrap it up here and let you tell us more about Tough Titties, where to find out about what you're doing with Talking Shrimp. Yeah, let's go.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's start with Tough Titties. Please pre-order it. I don't know when you're releasing this, Angie. Do you?
Yes, it's actually going to come out in June. I rearranged the schedule for you, my friends.
Oh, you are wonderful. Okay, so that means we are in the pre-order window. It comes out June 13th, and pre-order it. There will be all kinds of bonuses for you, especially if you order multiples, but you will get bonuses just for pre-ordering one, including the intro chapter that I think Angie mentioned she had read, or maybe that was offline. But you'll get that immediately in your inbox if you go to toughtittiesbook.com. And pre-orders are everything. I really feel like maybe every author feels this way, but I really feel like this book has a chance of hitting the list. New York Times bestseller list. People love it. They're responding to it well. Kelly Ripa has endorsed it. And
holy shit.
Said while she was reading it that Mark, her husband, kept asking her, what's so funny? And it's a good book. It's really good. And it will, if you feel like a late bloomer, if you feel behind in your life or your career, it will give you hope and make you feel better about everything. The subtitle is On Living Your Best Life When You're the Effing Worst. And so if you ever feel like you are a little bit the worst, not a terrible person, but find yourself saying, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm the worst, then it will make you feel better about your life. And other than that, it's just a great read, I've been told by many people. It's a beach read, it's a vacation read, it's a stay up all night read. And I'm only bragging about it because it's true.
Well, I absolutely agree with it. And I love the fact that you are breaking those norms of like, if you don't have your shit figured out by the time you're 30, you're destined to fail. No, like I remember you saying that you made your first million at 50, right? So like,
yes, that's right.
Time.
And I recognize that that's a number most people in the world will never, ever hit. And might not even think about hitting. So it's not like, would you believe I didn't make $1 million till I was 50? It's a big milestone, but it's a number that I had always drooled over and wanted. And being in the online space, had seen many of my colleagues who were in their 20s and 30s hit within a year or two. And here I was like 10 years into my business. And that's when I finally hit it. So I was very happy about that. And my book itself, I got my first book deal at age 50.
Wow.
And so took a while, took a half century to reach most of my these milestones and to feel like I had arced to a place of success in the way that I define it. And with many mistakes and detours along the way, and the episodes of hanging out with the wrong people in the wrong situations, and trying to in the name of trying to find my thing. I mean, I spent a year and a half in what I can't legally call a cult, but it was a personal development group that was very much not my scene, very much not me, with language that made me vomit. Like, I feel well in myself, all kinds of stuff like that. And that is in the book. And so I think for anyone who's been in situations that don't feel quite like them, where they don't feel like themselves, in the name of finding themselves and finding their thing.
That's so incredible. I'm going to make sure that they have clickable links to that. I might even publish a little ditty about what I think about it in the show notes.
I would love that. And yes, toughtittiesbook.com. So come and get it and be part of what's happening before Pub Day, because there's so much there that you like, including like training sessions. I'm going to do a thing called Story Goldmine Live, where it's based on a freebie that I have, which you can download at talkingshrimp.com/story-goldmine. You can put that in the show notes too. And that is 63 surprising places to mine your everyday life for stories that sell.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
And how to segue to a takeaway or the sale from that. So I'm going to have another writing training based on the book, like going through writing techniques that I used in the book to make your writing more compelling and page turning. So come and get it over there. And at talkingshrimp.com is where you can find me. That's my digital home. And you can find my freebies there. There is, we didn't talk about it at all, but my main copywriting thing is emails, newsletter emails. And so I have a freebie called Non-Sucky Subject Lines. And a lot of people have it printed out and posted next to their laptops, and they refer back to it all the time. So it's my 33 most open subject lines, and then 4 that tanked. So come and get it all.
4 that tanked. I love that.
Yes. And come find me on Instagram if you're a social media person. That's my main social channel. I'm at Laura Belgray. So come find me, say hi, story this if you're listening. We love it. Tag us both, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. I am so excited for this one to go live.
I'm excited too.
That's all for now. If you want to keep that kick-ass energy high, please take a minute to share this episode with someone that might need a high-octane dose of "you can do it." Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Permission to Kick-Ass podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you stream your podcasts. I'm your host, Angie Coley, and I'm here rooting for you. Thanks for listening, and let's go kick some ass.